Much a Sheikh, and of course we're talking about 60,000 families who are being targeted on the second eviction, of course, in the Mau. And among, of course, some leaders, we've seen them coming out to hail this, of course, at the Ma region, some of the likes of Joseph Olelenku hailing this move by the government. But equally, of course, in equal measures, we've seen some contest coming from other political leaders, and probably something that has been equaled to, some people coming out to, of course, trying to incite or trying to just tell these people of the Mau that, there's someone who's targeting their community. So does it equal to incitement? Some of the discussions that we'll be having this morning, and why is it that we're having a political angle on something that would have been considered to be normal? One would argue that if it is saving the interest of the country, I think it would be way better than saving the interest of few individuals of the country. So we'll be taking a look at what we can do to salvage this largest water tower in the country, because then, like I said earlier on, it's probably the noble thing to do. But then what are some of the policies that have been set to address this issue that has been emotive for ages, something that has been used as a political tool by very many political leaders? And of course, different reactions coming aboard, and people asking what, of course, President Uhuru Kenyatta's take is. And it is surprising to even ask what President Uhuru Kenyatta's take is, knowing very well that the person who has fronted this move, or maybe the person who's on the move, that is, of course, the CS, Keriako Tobiko, is doing this under the blessings of the government. So when the likes of Murkomen come aboard and say that, the only person who can proceed to evict people from Mau is Uhuru, then you ask yourself, is there some level of doublespeak at that level of the government? Because we would all assume that if Keriako Tobiko is taking this move, then it's out of the blessings of the president. So I'll have a panel joining us this morning, indeed a full house panel. It's great to have you this morning. Ben Mulo, who's seated right next to me, governance expert. Thank you so much for always joining us every morning. And of course, we're talking about none other than Adede. I always like calling him that, of course, Adede Paul Adede. Why Paul in the middle? Well, of course, we're not here to discuss your name, but then again, it's always interesting. And of course, to have you this morning, political analyst. And lastly, we have a new face, Pius Nunda. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. He's the Director of Financial Advisory Services. Thank you so much to have you this morning. And most importantly, we have Sheikh alongside with us as we have this candid discussion. And my biggest question first would be, of course, a noble thing to do to save this water tower that we're looking at. But then again, the issue has not been addressed for years. What is lagging us behind in addressing this? Are the policies not well placed to address this?
First, we need to remove this misconception that there are evictions from the Mau. There are no evictions from the Mau.
Okay.
We are reclaiming the Mau.
All right.
Those people are in the Mau in the first place illegally. So there is no way you can be evicted from a place where you occupy illegally. What we are just doing is doing what should have been done a long time ago, or what they should have been prevented from doing in the first place.
Right.
So it is unfortunate when you listen to the ignorance that the politicians continue to display, especially on a sensitive matter like this, because it is not negotiable. We're actually losing a lot of the water catchment areas because of illegal settlements. And I keep hearing people asking, where are these people supposed to go? My counter question is, where did these people come from
in the first place? Okay.
Because that should be the entry point. There are people who are motivated to occupy forest land and government gazetted forest land illegally, or whether it was for political expediency or whatever. This must come to a stop, because you see even the governor from Kajiado praising because they are actually now the real casualties of the impact of the destruction of the Mau. We are losing a lot in terms of the Masai Mara. In fact, this particular last season, you realized the wild beast overstayed in Tanzania for almost 2 months, because there's no grazing land left in the Masai Mara. So we must actually condemn these myopic ideas coming from Kina Murkomen and others who are insisting that we have to protect these people, because eventually even those people will not have water on that particular complex where they're insisting to stay. So the right thing must be done, and Kenyans must rally behind the CS. The president has no business in this. I mean, that's why he has a cabinet and we have a functional government.
Right.
It is not the business of the president to decide who gets evicted. What is needed is for the cabinet just to ensure that the law is obeyed.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Adede, Paul Adede, coming to you then, because there appears to be many angles to look at it from, including, of course, the report issued by the United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, in 2009 during the Grand Coalition government. But equally, again, coming to what's happening, I heard the Senator Aaron Cheriot, Kericho County, who cited the Hassan Noor Commission report in 2009. The same report in July, he and the contingent of members of parliament from the Rift Valley denied and rejected, refuted that. Looking at the Mau issue, is it under assault, and can it be an issue of a legitimately ecological catastrophe if not well managed?
Yeah, looking at it, Hassan, what is there is, this is not something happening, because the only time that it came on limelight was 2008, around July, when it was sent to the Prime Minister's office. By then, Raila Odinga was the one dealing with it. But it's something that started way back in 1984. Then there was again in 1997, 2002, and then now when the battle now went to the door was in 2008, around July, there has a new commission. The truth be said is that there has never been political goodwill between the sides. And if you look at the way things are moving, it's like it's so easy to do the Mau eviction when you're doing your last term. Even Kibaki was not, he was so very cautious when the first term. And the second term now, he threw the battle to Prime Minister Raila Odinga. If you look at the reports, and even if you look at the research that has been done on the canopy of Mau Forest, the environmental effect is so huge. You know, we are talking about 600,000 acres and around almost 14 rivers. That is, even Lake Victoria is there, Naivasha, Bogoria, Lementaita. And only that the political system in this country is very funny. Because if you remember, 2009, on Wednesday, when Raila Odinga tabled the motion about the Mau eviction after the report, it's only Raila and the side of the ODM side voted for eviction. The deputy prime minister then, who was also the finance minister, who was
agriculture minister,
not agriculture,
finance,
the finance, Uhuru Kenyatta. There was 2 billion which was set aside for compensation. The deputy prime minister refused that man could not be, because they were looking at it that will be a political capital for then their names is Raila Odinga. So today you see people like Murkomen, and even 2018, immediately after the handshake, there was name calling, like Raila is using the handshake to start the eviction.
Right.
But look, if you are truth to be what is there, and now, if you look at even the press statement yesterday between Jedo governor and Narok governor, it's also is turning to be a tribal thing, because you look at Ledamo Lekina, he's saying the Kipsigis, where have you left Kericho and coming to Masai? Yeah, and we are talking about a vote of over 40,000. So we must, what Ben is saying, we must remove politics out of it and we look at the environment part of it, which of course the effect on the environmental in Mau is so huge that and then the tribe which was there was the Okiek, and they are the ones who are given the opportunity to settle there. But today we are talking over 60,000 people who have invaded
this place.
But what is so important is the peaceful, the human process of settling these people. You know, there are people who have legal documents, title deeds. There are people who have allotments. There are people who have fake documents. But however much, we must look at the humane process of removing these people from the illegal land.
Okay, well, we're talking about that, and I think that was my next question, the aspect of rights as a Kenyan, you know, rights protection and everything, and most importantly, the aspect of peace, which is very crucial right now as we're talking about the aspect of, you know, ethnicity and all that, and the politics, and you know very well how politics can play a huge role in terms of, you know, altering peace. And lastly, what you say, that, you know, that process that needs to be proper in the event that maybe there are people who have documents, sorry, documents that are good enough, or maybe documents that are legit. Then at this point is when we're asking, are there indeed documents that are legit? Because when we are saying that we're reclaiming the Maui, it's a clear indication that this initially was a government affair,
Sure.
a country's affair. So then the question would be, where did they get these deeds or title deeds?
Question for me? Well, I think that is indeed a question that many of us would want addressed.
Yeah.
Because you cannot have a government who is the same party who has issued the certificates, the land certificates, and it now, again, now saying some of those documents are not legitimate.
Legit, yeah.
For me, I think the buck stops with the top leadership of this country. Because as Adede has said, you see, the president, from where he sits, he gives orders. Like now, the CS for environment is not acting out of his own, personal will or something.
Right.
And you all remember that Mr. Kariako Tobiko just came Minister of Environment not long ago.
Yeah.
So coming to say that some of those documents are not legitimate, one wants to find out then where did the documents come from?
Right.
Where did the documents come from? And I, as my colleagues have said, I've seen a lot of mistrust in this whole issue of Mao because you cannot have an issue coming over every other electioneering time. Right now the president is headed for the last term, and we can all see the writings are on the wall. You can all see that the team that is allied to the deputy president are against the eviction. And they're coming out very loudly. When
The deputy president, though, is not as loud. He's actually remained mum.
Yes. By the way, he has not talked, but
Yes,
you can
he's not.
almost read. By the way, when Murkomen speaks,
You know that.
he cannot speak his own mind.
Yeah.
And for me, what is key as a nation, because we are talking about people who had at one time had whatever they were settling, but now they're settling in Mao.
All right.
So they are being evicted, which means this was initially and originally a government land.
Okay.
As we are talking about this, for me, the buck should stop with the president. We must have a very clear procedure, even as we settle these people. We must, at the back of our mind, I mean, with respect to the environmental impact, whatever, they are the children. We are talking about the children.
Right.
We are talking about the women. Of course, every other time when such catastrophes happen, we talk about the two minority, rather. So for me, we must be very sincere with ourselves. We must be very sincere, because if we were very sincere from the Ministry of Lands,
All right.
then these people, we would not be talking about illegitimate documents.
Right.
We would be talking about maybe coming up with proper policies in place to be able to ensure that these people are settled once. And I can confirm this: if this thing is done once and for all, then you can be sure that will be a very big plus for us as a nation.
All right. Then I'll come to Ben before we go to break here and come back, of course, turn our attention to the other important element at hand. When you talk about conservation efforts across the world, it appears that then three key critical components will come to your mind. The Southeast Asia land cover, the African part of the continent, and of course the Amazon, which releases 200 million tons of carbon annually. And scientists, as is the case with the Mao, have been excluded systematically from this process. For instance, in the ASEAN countries and Vietnam, a fund was established by the government to ensure that the communities do conserve the environment, and that has been good, and well managed. How do we go beyond the out of proportion political rhetoric here in this country and focus universally on a government policy or a communal policy that will contribute to forest conservation, climate change mitigation, livelihood improvement, because 7 counties are at stake. Lake Victoria is at stake. If Lake Victoria is at stake, Sudan will be at stake, Egypt will be at stake, and Ethiopia will be at stake. So how do we make it a universal approach and do away, shun away, seize this myopic approach by our political establishment?
Two things there. Before I respond to that specific question, I want to maybe mention something that my colleagues have raised about illegitimate documents. We have to agree that we have had, since time immemorial, rogue government officers who have continued to issue documents that they know they are not supposed to issue. They are not fake, actually, they are genuine documents.
Okay.
They are genuine government documents, but they are issued in contravention with the provisions of the law. I'll give you examples. The same way we have people in the Mao who have legitimate title deeds is the same way we have individuals who previously even grabbed land that belonged to ADC. Even now, we still have a hotel that sits on land that belongs to the Kenya Airports Authority, and it has a title deed. So those are realities. That does not make it legal, as much as it is an official document. Now, to the next issue, actually, you bring out a very, very important conversation that Kenyans now must begin to have. I have been consistent in condemning what has been happening in the Amazon, including the wildfires that are believed to be instigated by people who want that particular forest cover destroyed. As we are speaking today, we have the ongoing destruction of the Congo forest. I don't know why the African Union is not talking about that. Right now, we have Chinese who have contracts even to harvest over 45,000 hectares of hardwood in the larger Congo, in Cameroon, and some areas of Benin, and that particular
the tropical
region.
land forest.
And you see, the Congo forest is it remains the lungs of Africa. The minute we lose the Congo forest, we are done. Now, that's exactly also what we are doing with Kenya when we are destroying the Mao complex. So instead of Murkomen and company making too much noise about nothing, they need to seriously start thinking about the generations that are to come. I can assure you, is they make noise. Like most of the times, if you go on to parts of Kericho, where Aaron Cheruiyot grew up, and Nelson Koech, the Belgut, where he's making too much noise about nothing. He can remember there were very tiny streams that used to be permanent, because he looks like he's in his 30s. Tiny streams that used to be permanent the whole year. Now they are not there. That's a reality. So why is he trying to just play politics that is not helping this country for nothing? So my take would be, the conversation needs to shift. What these members of parliament who are talking the loudest should be doing is going back to their people and telling them, look what, we have to fix this issue. We are going to negotiate or discuss with the government to make sure that there is a peaceful and humane process to resettle you. But we must fix this, because if we don't, your children will never find a place even to grow there, to farm. Where will they be growing their tea when we have destroyed the water sources? So those are the conversations the parliamentarians need to be having, and even support the CS in terms of seeking the support of the funds that have been established, so that we maintain that tropical belt across the world, not the kind of rhetoric we are seeing. Yes.
All right. So we had to go on break, but we have a call from John in Bungoma. So if our director can give us the authority to pick up the call, or we go on break, come back. Okay, so we hit the break after this short commercial break, come back and talk about, finish up on this important discussion, and later proceed to the handpicking of the Jubilee Party's candidate for Kibra parliamentary by-election set for November the 7th, 2019, following the, of course, statement issued by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, while the ODM party this Saturday will conduct its nomination process to come up with a flag bearer to represent, of course, it in its backyard, or, of course, its political zone. All that will be happening after this short break here on the program, so stay tuned. Okay, welcome back. You're watching the program. Thanks for staying with us. And of course, we are in the midst of the discussion. Before we turn our attention to the political card of Kibra constituency, we are still with the matters that pertain the Mao debate, the political angle, the economic angle, and of course the consequences if not well managed. And it comes at a time when the political establishment, some members are piling pressure on the CS environment, that is Keriako Tobiko. Before I get the sentiments of Adede Paula Dede and our other guest here on this set, allow me to throw it back to my colleague Linda, who is on the other set of the screen. She's being framed by our cameraman, so I'll be getting to her shortly so that she can be able to sample some of your feedback on our Twitter handle regarding the hashtag NewDayKE and, of course, the subject at hand, which is the Mau Forest. And, of course, you have been trying to get an understanding of what this entails and the consequences that this is likely to pose if or the event it's not well managed or it's mismanaged. So we now get to her. She will be able to sample some of your feedback on our Twitter handle. Linda.
Thank you. Biologically, I'm well framed. Of course, it's not the camera that frames me, but then again, yes, it is framing me for the sake of proper view, or for you to get to see what exactly, you know, some of us are actually saying or tweeting on, of course, in reaction to what we've been discussing, the Mau factor. And now we come over to the tweets that have been sent by some of you at Omosh. KE says, anytime I read such issues, my heart goes out to those innocent children and families facing the eviction. It's becoming clearer, that each and every day that we are dealing with an insensitive government out to government out to ravage its own populace. Very sad indeed. And of course, another tweet by at Jerry Nyadwa says, Mau evictions, at least they should be seen. Most of the people facing evictions have roots from that county. Interesting. And then another tweet by at Francis Goose says, Francie Runguz, yeah. And deforestation didn't start now. We are only experiencing its effect, but forceful eviction is against human rights. Another tweet by at Florence Marek says, 15 schools are said to be indefinitely closed. 60,000 families are to be displaced. All these are our brothers and sisters, parents being evicted. Where do they go after eviction? As much as we advocate for conservation of forest, we should also consider human nature. Florence still says, on a tweet right here, I would want to see Mau Forest restored, but I'm curious if current hashtag Mau evictions are not political. Another tweet right here by Believe Digital says, hey, future of Kenyans depend on a clean air and water. The same people opposing Mau evictions are the ones who squandered dams cash. Hashtag save our environment. And a tweet by at Nyumbani Kwangu says we should not politicize Mau evictions. Bare ground is what is left of many parts of the once dense forest. People should be evicted to allow for the restoration of the water tower. People have been evicted from water towers like the Aberdare in the past. So it is not news. Keep tweeting. It's important that you interact with us and we get to hear your sentiments. Hashtag NewDayKE. Of course, the SMS short code 40920. Let's cross over again to Ayub and we get to hear the sentiments of the panel over what, of course, some of us are tweeting. Thank you so much for that feedback. Ayub, back to you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much. As you get back to the set, and I'll seek the sentiments of Adede Paul Adede before we go. Of course, we cross over to the political element of it. Adede, I'll come to you. A little bit of statistics here, and to be brief, for instance, the sheer scale of human settlements in the Mau has had its consequences locally. We have seen, of course, no more movement of the wildebeest across the Mara River into Kenya, and that's just at the local level. Let me cite this report from the Environmental Research Institute of the Amazon in Brazil, which blamed deforestation. It said that in the 1970s, 60% of Brazil landmass was covered by forest, the Amazon to be specific. And in the contemporary 2019, it said that the land mass was reduced by 20%, that is in 2019. It predicts by 2030, deforestation will be at record 40% level. Yet this is an Amazon forest that absorbs millions of tons of carbon emissions a year, and it contributes to 20% of the oxygen that is consumed globally. Then we are again at the Mau here, where there isn't any scientific establishment or the denial of the reports issued by the United Nations Environmental Report. And we're just seeing the sheer scale of, again, the biblical apocalypse by the members of parliament who seem camouflaging around the issue because they used it as a campaign tool. Now they can't withstand the order of the CS, who of course was an appointee by the president. All again in the circles of the Jubilee Party appears to be a mismanaged process or policy towards the forest conservation. So what is the way forward out of the current mess that we're witnessing? If not well managed, will have continental effect.
What's there is that this is only the final time for us to deal with the issue of Mau eviction, just like Ben was saying. Because looking at the report, even from the Narok County Council, if you look at the research they did, it's a massive that even today if you drive, by the I come from western part of it. When you reach Kericho, you know you are in Kericho. But today, when you drive going back, passing through Kericho, for the first time in December, Kericho was dry.
Absolutely.
Kericho was dry, which has never happened in history. That's Kericho and Kisii. It has never been there. You look at when, during the burial of the governor, Laboso,
Yes.
the water tower, yes, the water tunnel that the president, deputy president, even Raila was talking about, it's something that cannot exist if we don't resettle the people in Mau Forest. So the reason why this has to, and there's a little bit good, because there's no semblance, political semblance, and unanimity in Jubilee circles. And we pray that Raila Odinga should never even talk about the Mau thing, because once he talks, it will turn to be political. So we really pray that Raila Odinga not talk about it. The president has taken a break on it and let's leave it with the executive. Let's see, because if you look at even the impact, the report,
Yes.
this is the second phase. The first phase, they had recovered almost 60,000 acres, which of course, Ladema Lekena, the other time I saw them with planting trees. However much, land is a motive thing in this nation, but we have to bite the bullet.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, lastly, children out of school, as we get wind up on this, children out of schools, of course, those parents that people are talking about, family members and all that. In as much as maybe we would all say that it's important that these people are evicted out of the Mau for the benefit of the environment, what will be the ultimate, what will be the best way to approach this? Because at the end of the day, when we're talking about a second phase of eviction, then the likelihoods will be talking about another third one and fourth and fifth. So clearly, there's nothing that we do. We'll just be circumventing around a circle that probably would not give us answers to this. So,
I think for me, that's a very good question. The most important thing that we need to do as a nation, because right now, this is the third term. And most schools, of course, we know we are going to prepare for KSP and KCSE. And there are many schools. Actually, it has been cited that about 10,000 children will be out of school if the status quo is maintained. So for me, I would still insist that there needs to be a proper dialogue around this. Because at the end of the day, we know the facts. As we politic around, as the politician around Rift Valley, politic around this, they know the truth. They know very well that the particular portion of land, of Mau, that is in question, belongs to the government. And I like it the way we always come to the defense of our own people. Right now, of course, they will present those cases of our people are being targeted, and it's not my say. Because if it was a national issue, then I would expect even the governor from Turkana to come and say that stop this eviction. Stop this eviction. But you see, because our politicians are not sincere and they want to use this as another card for 2022 for their own benefits. By the way, at the end of the day, these politicians have no interest about the children. So for me, what I would, and it would not be right for the president to close up his ears or something about the eviction. He must, is the commander-in-chief. Is the leader of the nation. He needs to come and state very clearly his position. And right now we are talking about the BBI. Even the former prime minister needs to give a very clear position. And you stated very clearly in 2008, he took a position and he went to parliament and he stated his position. And by the way, remember when they were supposed to go and plant trees with the then president, Kibaki. The president pulled out. He actually pulled out without apology. So for me, we need to be very sincere as a nation. Unless we get to that level, then we'll just be presenting the issue of children just for the sake of it, so that it just comes as another reason for us to go around it. But as a nation, we must be very sincere. We must dialogue, and let us not look at Keriako Tobiko and now start saying that is targeting our people. Yeah, so we must be very sincere. That's what I'm saying. And even the leaders from the Masa area, they need to be very honest, because this thing, as it is now, it's looking like something that's going to again brew another battle between the Rift Valley people, of course the Kalenjins and the Masais, and it's going to be very unfortunate, because at the end of the day, it is the common Kenyan that is at the middle of the battle.
All right. appears to be moved in different directions, and the swinging pendulum for that sort. And to some, of course, the Mau issue did cost Odinga the presidency in 2013.
That's why you should not, okay?
Defending silence.
Yeah.
Well, now we cross over to matters politics. And former Inter Milan forward McDonald Mariga will be the Jubilee Party candidate in the forthcoming Kibra by-election.
Are you laughing
I
because
saw
of
it
that?
Was 7th November 2019. The seat, of course, became vacant following the demise of the late Member of Parliament Ken Okoth to colorectal cancer. Of course, the ODM party is set to conduct its party primaries or nominations this coming Saturday, and it's likely to come up with a candidate. And coming to you, Ben Mulwa, then regarding the political developments now, the ruling Jubilee Party didn't fill a candidate in the candidates in the by-elections of Ugenya and Embakasi South. Yet we see McDonald Mariga, of course, well-versed with the Kibra constituency, born, of course, there, understands the language dynamics, and is, of course, going to be having some aspects of liquidity politically.
Yes.
But it's an ODM backyard, and it's literally stepping into the lion's den. Was this strategic and well-thought-out political plan by the party?
First, it is actually a very interesting move that I'm sure has set a lot of people or send a lot of people back to their drawing board on very many fronts. Because you see, politics is fundamentally driven by two things, name recognition and face recognition. Currently, among all the candidates who may be seeking to run in Kibra, I don't think anybody has the popularity that Mariga has. Couple that with his prominence, which I think is not a very good thing, but it gives him prominence in his betting advertisement. You're going to find he's been actually in Kibra for the last many months in the posters and billboards and places. So he's actually been campaigning without campaigning.
All right.
Again, it's a misconception that that is an ODM backyard, because you don't initially the narrative used to run that ODM, or when Raila was MP in that constituency for 20 years, that actually 21 years. Thank you for the correction. You find that the thinking was that primarily this is Luo zone, because unfortunately our politics is about the tribes. We want to know now if it's Kalonzo, how many Kambas does he have here? If it's Musalia, how many Luyas does he have? If it is Uru, how many Kikuyus does he have here? And if it's Ruto, how many Kalenjins does he have? So the truth is actually the population dynamics do not give any specific community an outright win. It is impossible. Because the margins are very thin between the Luya and the Luo and the Kikuyu and the Kamba and the other communities. So it means it has to be a combination of factors. And the reality is the handshake again comes at play, but also this is going to be an interesting test. Because if Jubilee fills a Luya candidate, and the Luya population is the highest in Kibra constituency, contrary to popular thinking on the street. And you combine that with maybe if the Jubilee party is able to whip the support of the other Jubilee allied communities like the Gema community, it is an outright win for Mariga. It is going to be a very tough call for ODM this time round. In fact, you know, I've been listening to the conversations. I've even received calls from very prominent Luya politicians, and they were surprised that actually they have always been brainwashed to think that this is a Luo zone, yet it is a Luya zone. So they are out also to make a statement.
All right.
Yeah, it is going to be very interesting.
While it might look like, yes, he stands a chance based
Yes,
on
it does.
technically
Yes,
what
yes,
is
it
there.
does. Yes, it does.
Yes, let's just go back to the drawing board and maybe let's just observe history or technically what has been happening in terms of, you know, getting people on board. And maybe this could have been motivated by the fact that we have George Weah in Liberia, who was equally a footballer at some point in time and got himself into that. And a couple of other individuals, of course, who were not in the field of politics, but officially are now crossing over to that side. And the role of the electorate in this case, because we can actually pinpoint in the current parliament individuals that we've elected based on popularity, based on ethnicity, based on the fact that they are common figures and faces that we know very well. But once they get there, then you realize that they probably do not understand what goes around.
True.
Or maybe they barely do anything for the electorate or the people who elected them. So what are the likelihoods that the people of Kibera are going to be witty enough to observe this. And we're not trying to say that Mariga is not good enough, but then the question is, if they are to go back there and vote based on the fact that, you know, this is a popular figure, we don't care about what Twitter says, we don't care about what other people say, but we know this particular face, then of course land themselves into more trouble than they all expected. So how can we sort of just see to it that they balance this to avoid a scenario whereby they're going to get a performer who's way less or way lower than what Ken Okoth was?
That's for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Considering that you are an ardent ODM.
Yeah, ODM. Now that, of course, it's a clear indication that there's a problem for you.
I'm an ardent ODM supporter and also supporter of Handshake. So when Handshake comes in, now we move to Jubilee.
Neutralized.
We move to Jubilee and we dissect Jubilee. And we know currently Jubilee is divided. We have the Jubilee of Uhuru Kenyatta and the Jubilee of Tanga.
Okay, so that's the third one.
The Jubilee of Tuji is the Jubilee of Uhuru, the president. So looking at what he's saying, Mariga will be the easiest candidate for us as a party, looking at the dynamics. People talk about the lawyers in terms of population, but in terms of vote, the Luo vote is more than the lawyer vote. Okay. It's the Luo vote, then Kamba vote. And if you don't go tribal, you know, there's something that people do not understand. I know some, which is here. You look at even the election of 2017, you look at the amount of pressure Uhuru Kenyatta, William Ruto, and the government put in Western, and Raila Odinga, who was just coming with chopper, coming back to Serena and rest. If you look at the voter turnout, Raila defeated Uhuru and Ruto in Western. The same to cost. Right. Because the intermarriage between Luos and lawyers are almost the same. And once you bring the issue of ODM, lawyers, as per now, if you walk to Orange House, almost 80% of the staff in Orange House, they are lawyers. So it's a stake where when ODM as a party come to Kibra, it will be ODM of Luo's lawyers and partly Kamba. The only problem that is bringing us headache is NSC, which is a former Prime Minister.
Is it a former?
Yes.
Oh, okay, well.
Olidowalo.
Yes.
I thought you wanted to say, you know, a former NASA or whatever.
NC candidate. The NC candidate, you know, it's both Luo and also has the NC now come in the Luo aspect. But if you look at even the MCs around, it was give and take. We have Luos around three who are members of county assembly there, and around 2 also lawyers. Like if you look at the Lindi ward, he's a lawyer, Kase, Laini Saba, and it was give and take. So in the politics, what ODM need to really do is having free, fair, and credible nomination. Once we have that done, it will be an easy ride. And if you look at even the Jubilee party, it will be so difficult because Sakaja gave his commitment of going to support the ODM candidate. You look at even the way we have seen by-elections in this country between ODM and 2017 and towards 2013, 2017, the kind of energy Jubilee had before is not the kind of energy we have now.
Because of the division? Because
of the division. And some sources says that Uhuru is not committed in this by-election of Kibra. It's Ruto who is committed, because this might also be a test for him to
Which
know.
Mariga disputed yesterday. And okay, well, what of the money factor also?
Yes, the money factor doesn't play. If money factor was playing politics in this country today, the margin between Uhuru and Raila could have been 70%. Uhuru could have been, because I was in that campaign of Raila Odinga, and surprisingly, Raila might have used less than 1 billion. But Uhuru and Ruto might have used over 30 billion. But you look at the margin until Supreme Court did what it did. Yeah. So the only thing that I don't want to come up is the tribal cards being played in Kibra.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to add something to what Adede has said. I would be so interested to know the strategies that you believe want to put in place to ensure Mariga win. Because we all remember that them fielding a candidate came as an afterthought.
Yeah.
And whether we like it or not, politics in this country largely takes tribal lines.
Yes.
And the by-election in Kibra is no exemption. Now, looking at the situation as it is now, Mariga is a Luya and is being fronted by Jubilee. So for me, Mariga is the easiest candidate to beat in Kibra for two reasons. One, Raila still commands a lot of support. You remember, he has been out of Kibra leadership for close to 10 years, close to a decade. But he has such a strong following. So number one, it will be very difficult to beat Raila in Kibra. Number two, we have, when we look at the Luya, the context aspect of it, Eliud Owalo has been fronted by Amani. By the way, if Eliud Owalo would have remained, or rather would have been picked as the ODM candidate, it would be a very easy win for him. But now that he has gone to ANC, and they're going to divide the votes, looking at that.
So there's a party factor.
There's a party factor.
Yeah. Okay.
Looking at that statistics, that Mariga, well, is banking his support on the lawyer because, again, let's be very honest as we do this. It was until Jubilee declared, whether Mariga denies that he's not been fronted, it was until Jubilee declared that they're fronting a candidate that he came up.
Yeah.
Is that not true? That is very true. So for me, I would be very much interested to know, or rather to see, the strategies that Jubilee has in place, that ANC has in place to beat. I don't want to repeat what Mr. Dede has said. ODM is the party, and it will be very difficult. I would really also want to say that I'm a very strong supporter of the party.
Of course, something that he did not answer. Do we want to also bank on the enlightenment of the electorate? I mean, it's a whole different affair right now. You know, when you look at the electorates out there, you know, they're well informed, they well understand the dynamics of, you know, just supporting an individual as opposed to, you know, affiliation of a certain party and all these nitty-gritty details.
The one thing that comes out very strongly, Linda, is contrary to actually his assertion, actually those figures we are giving out, those are actually registered voters, not the population. Because we have, those are actually the registered voters. You know, sometimes ODM seeks comfort in the fact that we have names, especially from the Luya in Busia, like Odieki, we have Otuoma, who are from Busia, and those kinds of names. So when they see, oh, they are, this is our vote, but that's not the case. But, and again, contrary to the assertion that...
So, what does the register give people per tribe?
Sorry?
Where did you get the data?
No, I don't have. I'm saying, like, when you have a vote, I mean,
Well, of course,
you can actually inspect that voter register is available at IBC. You can actually inspect a voter register.
They're not indicated tribe.
No, the names. No, you know, the name starts, like, if you go to the big book that you normally sign on when you vote, my name starts with Mulwa. It's simple. You can always verify that information. So it's available. It's not information that is secret.
Like me, who is Adede, where do you categorize me if you see the name? Is it a Luo name, Kisivo, name Mama?
It can be.
That's where the confusion comes in.
Yes. So my point is this. Again, contrary to the thought you may have, we have a case whereby up to now, in fact, that's where the biggest dilemma ODM has. They have no clear front runner in terms of the candidates who are coming to them. In fact, that is the biggest nightmare within ODM. And the dynamic of Owalo and the dynamic now of Mariga, that again complicates matters because now it depends on how the people who are fronting, how the parties really go back to the people. I do not refute the fact that Raila is very popular in Kibra.
In Kenya.
Yeah, no.
Say the world.
But there are certain realities we must also come alive to. I think the narrative about the DP, and it is going to be interesting because suppose you guys continue insisting that Mariga is a candidate of the DP and then he beats you again like he did in Ugenya and he did in Bakassi. So just a moment, it is going to be very unfortunate. So it is better you remove that narrative and talk to the people of Kibra. But again, we have Governor Sonko in Nairobi. Governor Sonko is a very powerful force in Nairobi politics. You cannot dispute that. And if Governor Sonko decides to throw his weight behind Mariga, I can guarantee you ODM is never going to see that seat.
Briefly as we
I wanted to say something.
I know you have a lot in mind.
Yes.
Okay, you see, number one, you asked a very good question
Right.
about electorate and educating them.
Right.
By the way, it's only that that time might not be there, but the person who would have taken Kibera, because right now we have not even seen the policies or whatever these people are standing for, the manifestos.
All right.
Yeah. So for me, you've talked about the issue of David Ochieng, and I want to tell you the reasons are different. The setup was totally different. And let me tell you, ODM did not lose. Okay, fine, they lost in Uganda. Number one, David Ochieng was an ODM candidate from the word go. And David Ochieng was elected not because of the new party that he had. And David Ochieng was not elected because he sabotaged ODM or any other person. Right. David Ochieng was elected because of the records. And it will go down by there as one of the best performing first-time MPs. Yeah? David Ochieng, we cannot even enumerate the things that he did for the people of Kenya, and that's why he was elected. Coming down here, I like the fact that you have said that there's no strong candidate. Let's wait until Saturday. By the way, let us not fool ourselves. Yeah, ODM as a party is very strategic. In fact, right now,
among the aspirants, there's even one who molded Marenga in the ODM.
Okay. So for me, the narrative, and at the end of the day, of course, as we all agree, needs to be focused on who is capable of helping the people of Kibera. And many of us, like now, Mariga himself. Kibera is a very big constituency, by the way. Some of those people who are coming, who have been fronted, do not even know. Do you know where Sri Lanka is?
Yes, I do.
You know where Sri Lanka is, but some of those politicians who have been fronted, they do not know. And again, the people are supposed to be helping out.
Okay.
There's barely time to move around. Okay, share.
Well, this is a very expansive topic, and the continuity is, of course, going to be as we keep track of the ODM nominations and, of course, the final outcome as the people of Kibera will be accorded the constitutional right to, of course, elect their leader come 7th of November 2019. But gentlemen, thank you. I do appreciate your time. That's where we come to an end here on the program. And thank you to you too. As we see of gentlemen on the set, we are coming back with a different discussion that pertain matters home, what needs to be done in that period. And of course, we are going to be having another guest on set after this short commercial break. The number is 0791479 40791478 The hashtag on Twitter is NewDayKE. The short SMS code is 40920. We are coming back after this break. Stay tuned.